So, welcome back to another episode. And today I'm going to talk about one of my favorite memories from 1987. Yes, we're going in the way back machine. I bet some of you weren't actually even born in 1987, but I had an amazing Christmas in 87 and I really wanted to talk about it. So in my Anime Rocks episode, I talked about a show called Robotech that I was watching on TV back then, and it was changing my life, honestly. It had everything that I wanted in a cartoon show at the time. It had, memorable characters, freaking awesome robots, transforming fighters, a giant city in a gigantic spaceship that also transformed, and a gigantic galactic battle going on in the universe. It was awesome being a kid. But what I loved was the very first part of Robotech, which was the Macross saga, what it's described. That is the first part of Robotech. And I just was in love with it. So I didn't even know there was a movie. And then in the summer of 1987, I went to a comic book convention, and as I'm walking, I saw this book right here. And it is the Macross, Do You Remember Love, the movie book. The book on the animated Macross film. I didn't even know there was a Macross film at this point. So I'm walking by and I recognized the symbol of UN Spacey. And I was like, oh my god, I know that symbol. What is that book? And the guy was nice enough, because I'm a little kid. He was nice enough to actually take it off the shelf and show it to me. And he actually showed me page by page. And I was hypnotized by this book. What was so amazing about Macross the movie was that everything I loved in the TV show that I watched was updated and revised. So the main ship in Macross, the SDF-1 Macross, it's updated from its old look to a brand new, much more futuristic look, and I thought that was so cool. The Valkyrie fighters in the show as well were actually all super Valkyries or strike Valkyries, so now they all had like cannons on them. All the tech and machines were upgraded. The flight suits of the characters were actually updated as well, and the story was updated. The enemies were even updated, their looks. And I just loved it. I just loved how we were going, we were taking the entire television show, revising it, making it that much cooler, and making a movie out of it. And I saw this book, and as a kid, I was memorizing every page as he's flipping it, and I went home that day, and I said to my parents, "Oh my God, you have to get me this book. I saw the most amazing book today, and I knew I'd never see the movie. I wouldn't ever be able to see the movie. But this is '87. Anime was not available in this country. It was impossible to get, especially a movie, of Macross. No." We still don't have the movie officially released over here. That's something crazy. So I was saying to my parents, I'm like, please, can you get this book for me? And they're like, and here's the kicker. They're like, oh, how much is this book? And I'm like, and the book was $200. The reason why it was so expensive is import items back then were just super expensive. They really were. Like, to get an anime art book back in '87, maybe in Japan it would cost like $6, but the import fees and all of that, and then the markup that they did was robbery back then, was skyrocketing. So a $6 book would cost you like $40 to $50, honestly. So, and this was a premium book. So, of course, my parents said, no, we're not getting you this book. Are you out of your mind? Go back to bed, and I was so obsessed with this book. I can't tell you how much it took over my life, my imagination. All I was thinking about every day was the imagery I saw in my mind when this guy showed me the book. It drove me crazy, and I was a really big artist as a kid, and I got to show you guys this. This is just great. I actually drew my own version of what I'd seen. This is the original book right here, all right? And look at this, side by side. I actually drew my own Macross book right here, my own Macross art book, and it's very different. It's a very different book, but I gotta give it to myself as a kid in '87. And this is huge. This book is gigantic. The amount of pages that I drew. Honestly, it's I was really good with felts back then. I was unreal. So I was drawing this entire thing based on just seeing the book one time. So I drew this like, I don't even know what it is. I think it's about 40 pages plus based on what I saw in the book. And it's very interesting. I can't believe I actually drew it. And I gave it to my dad as a Christmas present. I drew it over the next few months to give to my dad, maybe a subliminal messaging saying, seriously, dude, I love this book this much that I would draw my own version of it. And yeah, this is very nostalgic. I drew this book in 1987, type of thing. So I gave it to him for Christmas. And I worked on it every day after school for months and months and months. And I bugged my parents and I bugged my parents. There was something going on behind the scenes. It was getting close to Christmas and my parents said, you know what? This kid has been going on about this book for so long and he has drawn entire books himself on it. I think he really likes it. So my parents went to a local comic book shop and they said, could you order this book? It wasn't on the shelf. You had to, at that time, get a preview book and an import preview book, look through it, and then maybe find it and then order it. Then 3 months later it would show up. That's how it worked. So they went to this comic book shop. Here's the cunt about the comic book shop. They ordered it for my parents. They never even heard of it in this comic book shop. Oh, a Macross book? What is that? They didn't even know what it was. They didn't really know that Robotech was getting to be absolutely massive. So they ordered this book. They called my parents. They took like a month to order, and it finally showed up. It actually showed up early. That's actually early. My mom and dad, after work, went down to pick up the book. They'd called them, said, hey, we got your book that you ordered is in. My parents said, oh, we'll be in after work. My parents drove down to the comic book shop. Whoever was working the comic book shop that day didn't realize it was on hold for somebody, or somebody had fucking ordered the book. They grabbed the book, put it on the shelf. Some people came in, another fanatic, older fanatic who had money, and they bought it. They said, oh, this book is for sale? Oh my God, it's the Macross. This is based on Robotech. This is amazing. We can't believe you have a book like this. No comic book shop had this kind of book. So some people went in and bought the book. My parents went in. They're like, oh, we're really sorry. We just sold the book. And my mother, she's a really nice British lady. She fucking erupted and went crazy on these guys. Like, why would you do that? And so, my dad as well. And so, anyways, my parents are out of luck now. Like, how can we do this? So, I'll cut to the chase in this one. My dad was able to find a comic book store on an island. It's called Victoria, away from us. And they said, yeah, we can order the book and get it in. And my dad was managing a framing company at the time. And he had a driver go out who had to go over to Victoria and picked up the book after it came in after a month and all that. So I'm telling you, I didn't know. This is behind the scenes. I didn't know I was ever getting this book. To be honest with you, I never thought. It was too expensive. It was too ridiculous. But, I never thought I'd get this book. It was not going to happen. And I remember it was Christmas Eve. I'll never forget this. It was Christmas Eve. And we went to some of my friends, my parents' friends' place. And all the kids were downstairs in the basement. All the parents were upstairs drinking and having a good time. And we're downstairs doing whatever. And so I guess some drunken lady stumbles downstairs and decides she's in a festive mood and to talk to all the kids. And she comes in and she's like, oh, how are you guys doing? And we're like, oh, good. And I guess I was the older one of the bunch. And she's like, oh, what did you ask for Christmas? And I'm like, actually, and you have to understand, in 1987, for a kid to say this, it must have been like, what the fuck are you talking about? I'm like, oh, I said, I actually, I asked for a Japanese book based on my favorite animated show. It's actually a movie version of the show. And I'm a kid, so I'm gushing. And it's got this, it's got the Valkyries in it, blah, blah. There's Andrade, and I'm going completely bananas. And she's like, she's drinking her wine. She's like, oh, that's nice, dear. I had no idea. It really was the beginning of the anime, I hate to say it, revolution starting to happen. Anime was starting to become known by a different generation. My generation was starting to really take an interest in Japanese art books based on animated shows. Nobody did that. That was weird. In Japan, normal. Here, no. And it was the greatest thing in the world. Was waking up that Christmas morning, and I open up all these presents, and my parents. Honestly, it was like a Christmas story. You've ever seen that? That kid wanted that Red Ryder BB gun. This was my Red Ryder BB gun. This Macross book. And I woke up Christmas morning, and we'd open up all the presents, and there was something behind the tree, and it was so I can't ever describe the excitement. I don't think I've ever had the excitement since, where I saw something, and I just almost started I was freaking out. I was like inside, like my stomach was just churning with excitement. It was like euphoria. And I remember I opened up this packaging, and there's this brown paper bag, and I opened it, and then that's when I saw this gorgeous gold book, this amazing gold book, and I took it out of the slipcase. I was and I've always been so, gentle with it, and I opened it up, and the first thing you actually get is a big poster, this beautiful, kind of foil poster of the inside workings of a Strike Valkyrie, one of the fighter transformable jets in the movie. And then the one thing that also struck me when I opened the book was the smell of the print. It's still, I just opened it up, and I was like, I just went straight back to '87 that Christmas. It always reminds me of that when I open it up, and I just opened it up, and the first thing I saw was the SDF-1 Macross, the Super Dimension, Fortress Macross. I opened up, and it was just amazing to see the Japanese lettering. It really was. And also to see the Japanese posters for the movie. And the design by Haruki Mikimoto, he's a character designer. When you go through the book, and it's just every single frame of the movie. Every cell frame of the movie. Beautifully captured. Beautifully done with the dialogue of what's going on in every scene. And if that's not enough, you get past that, and so I'd never seen the movie. So I flipped through the entire book to understand the story, which was very much like the original TV series, but as I said much before, everything was subtly different, subtly better. With the inclusion of the Meltrati as the enemies and all that. And then you get to the back, and it's just the background art of it. And I was just in love with the artwork. And then we got into the character designs of everything. And then the mecha section, which is just, it's extraordinary to check out the level of design and detailing on some of these works. Japanese anime style, books in general, but it's just so nice how for me, it was my first real taste of an art book from Japan based on a movie, and it impressed me. It was amazing, and it's all these years later, and it still is one of my most prized possessions. It really is my most prized possession, just because of, it was so fresh and new and all that at the time. And I did get an art book before that, and that was the Macross Perfect Memory book. I think I got this in 1986, and this was based on the TV series. And this was a nice book. So I'd seen these kind of books before, but Macross the movie, just the artwork and everything was just miles above the TV series. So, and here's one. If you thought me drawing the original book or something, when I got the final book, because I'd finally got a chance to see it, I finally was able to draw, and I drew the entire book out. Yeah. I did my own version of it. Again, this was based on the actual book, though. And it's amazing how near the end of drawing this, I was just so inspired, right? I was so inspired by the art and all that I had to somehow do something about it. I couldn't just be a fan. I wanted to create myself, and that's why I started doing my own. Another book, and so I actually drew 2 Macross books myself. And this is, and I'm impressed when I look back. Look at this, eh? It's so funny to see this and to see this one, and then to see the original. So, guys, I think this video is probably up to about the 17-minute mark. I just wanted to talk about My Macross Christmas in 1987, and a wonderful memory, and I will always thank my parents for such a wonderful memory for a lifetime. So anyways, guys, until next time.